They could have responded to Hamas without attacking a kid, killing the kid, and when people come to rescue him, attacking them as well. I can be here all day. We don't have the time.
So
I can go through. They didn't need to attack an apartment building.
When American
We're
forces,
not doing whataboutism. We're not doing whataboutism.
when they went after ISIS,
Yeah.
but they killed a lot of innocent
Yes,
children in the process.
I think those were acts of war crimes. I think war crimes are acts of terror. Yes.
So if you go after,
I don't think.
So if you go after any terror group in the world.
No, I'm saying if you hold on, Piers. The definition of terrorism, according to every dictionary, is the use of political violence against civilians for political goals. That is what Netanyahu is doing. He said it openly. Israelis have said it on your show.
In today's video, Mehdi Hasan absolutely destroys Piers Morgan in a heated debate on the war on Gaza and Piers' blatant hypocrisy on the issue. But Mehdi doesn't let that slide. He brings receipts, facts, context, international law, and just dismantles that double standard. Piers is quick to label Hamas attacks as terrorism, which they absolutely are. But when it comes to Israel bombing refugee camps, killing thousands of civilians, or targeting journalists and aid workers, suddenly it's just defense? This isn't just a debate. It's a full-on exposure of how selective outrage works in Western media. And Mehdi calls it out in real time. It looks like Mehdi Hasan is the real uncensored journalist here. So let's dive in and watch how Mehdi Hasan shuts down Piers Morgan in this heated debate.
Well, he's responding to a terrorist attack.
By doing more terrorism.
He's
killed 33 times as many people as Yahya Sinwar.
Let me be clear.
But Sinwar's a terrorist,
Let
not
me be clear.
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu should absolutely no longer be Prime Minister of Israel.
Should he be at the ICC?
Probably, yeah.
So if the warrant comes down, you support the UK arresting him if he comes to the UK?
I absolutely think that his alleged war crimes, and I use that because they've not been substantiated, his alleged war crimes should absolutely be investigated.
This doesn't make any sense. I agree with you. No. I agree with you that they haven't been substantiated, but I'm being consistent. I'm saying everyone, Hamas, Israel, should be substantiated in investigation. You're saying one side's terrorists based on GoPro, but the other side's not terrorists, even though we've watched them kill thousands of people on camera. Literally, I've seen it. I saw them gun down an old lady holding a white flag.
Hamas have made no secret that what they did was terrorism.
Nor of Israel. Have you listened to Israeli soldiers? You should watch our documentary. It's called Israel's Real Extremism. It shows Israeli soldiers talking proudly about what they've done in Gaza. It's not just a T word, Piers, that you've been reluctant to use in relation to Israel, but also the G word. Genocide.
It's not genocide.
Why are you, so let's talk about that. Why are you perfectly happy to call what Russia is doing in Ukraine a genocide, but not what Israel's doing in Gaza when there are fewer civilians, far fewer kids killed in Ukraine than in Gaza, arguably way less genocidal rhetoric from the Russian government than we hear from the Israeli government? Why are you so uncensored on Russia but not on Israel? What are you afraid of?
I actually thought when you first jumped with that, it was a good point. I hadn't realised I'd used the word genocide in relation to what was going on in Russia. And I did go away and think about that quite carefully. Because you've got to be careful about the word genocide. The word genocide is where you deliberately exterminate a group of people based on ethnicity. And the reality about, let's take Gaza first of all. If Israel actually wanted to get rid of everyone in Gaza, they have the military power to do that. They have nuclear weapons. They could just nuke Gaza, as some of them, I suspect, would quite like to do. They've got some massively right-wing headbangers in that government, Ben-Gvir, Smodrich and others, who I suspect wouldn't hesitate to wage a form of genocide. So I accept that completely. But the reality is that there are 2 million people in Gaza, of which, depending which estimate you want to believe, but the official records from the Hamas-run health authority, there are about 45,000 people have died, of which it is estimated that around 15 to 20,000 are Hamas, and the rest are civilians.
That's
they're
estimated by Israel, but okay.
Okay, but there are different figures put out. But let's assume it's in that ballpark. Okay.
No.
Well, okay, but
you can say that.
Here's my point. It's not 2 million people, which Israel.
But that's not the definition of genocide.
Well, isn't it?
No. The Genocide Convention doesn't say you have to kill everyone.
Piers once again is bending over backwards to defend Israel's actions, refusing to call what's happening terrorism or genocide, even when the facts are staring him in the face. Meanwhile, Mehdi calmly but forcefully lays out the case. When you bomb a refugee camp, kill thousands of civilians, including children, and target people trying to rescue the wounded, that is political violence against civilians. By every textbook definition, that's terrorism. Even Israeli soldiers themselves on record have spoken about shooting civilians and leveling homes as punishment. Mehdi points to his own documentary where Israeli soldiers admit these acts proudly. That's not conjecture, that's evidence. Mehdi isn't afraid to say the quiet part out loud, while Piers is still stuck defending the indefensible under the guise of balance. If you care about human rights, Mehdi's the one speaking truth here.
By the way, you said this to Bassem Youssef, our good friend, last week on the show. You said, well, I want to read you exactly what you said. Israel hasn't nuked Gaza, quote, they could have done. They haven't done that. If you're really genocidal, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
But Russia has the ability to nuke Ukraine too. Russia has the biggest stockpile of nuclear warheads in the world. So why hasn't Russia? So Russia's not doing a genocide?
No, I don't think they are, and I shouldn't have said that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in order to defend Israel, you're withdrawing your allegation against Russia?
Yeah, because you made me think about it. I didn't remember that I'd used that word in relation to
but it's not just Russia.
No, because
you've said it about many people.
Well, okay, so
you said Bashar al-Assad in 2012, 1 year into the civil war in Syria, when the death toll was much lower than Gaza. You said it was a genocide. You said the Rohingya in Burma.
Well, that's interesting.
Hold on. You said Rohingya in Burma.
Answer.
I'm finished my question, then you answer.
Okay.
You said the Rohingya in 2017, far less death toll in Burma, is a genocide. So I look at Piers Morgan and I say, here's this uncensored person, very bold, outspoken, opinionated man. He says Syria's a genocide. Burma's a genocide. Ukraine's a genocide. Israel? No, it's not a genocide.
Yeah.
And now today, actually, I'm going to withdraw the charge of genocide of Ukraine. That's how much I don't want to accuse Israel of genocide.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It feels like you're afraid.
No, the other examples I would give, I would say absolutely there was genocidal intent. You did make me think about what was happening in Russia and Ukraine. And the reality is, as people know in that area, it is complicated because a lot of the people in the Donbass, for example, speak Russian, right? And some of them, a percentage of them, do identify as Russian and would quite like to go back to being Russian. So I think to use the word genocide about what Russia is doing there is the wrong term. And I shouldn't have used it.
So
I wasn't aware
you're withdrawing it on Syria and Burma as well?
No, because I think they are definitely a genocidal intent. They're genocidal intent. What you want people to believe is that what Israel is doing, without any reference to October the 7th, they want to basically kill
Bashar al-Assad would say exactly what Netanyahu says. He says, I'm fighting terrorists. They're hiding amongst civilians in Homs.
Let me ask you.
Assad uses the same...
Let me throw it back at you.
No. To quote you, this is my show. I've got limited time. I'm asking you questions. Bashar al-Assad would say exactly what Netanyahu says. He says, I'm fighting terror. I don't believe him and you don't believe him. We don't like Bashar al-Assad. We agree on Assad.
Yes.
But he would say exactly what Netanyahu says. I'm fighting terrorists who are hiding amongst civilians in Homs and I'm bombing them. I'm fighting a war of self-defense. You say genocidal. I say, yeah, maybe genocidal. Israel says Amalek. They say total annihilation. They say we're going to destroy Gaza. We're going to level it, etc. You say not genocidal.
Now, Mehdi Hasan points out the obvious double standard. When Arab or Muslim governments kill civilians, Piers has no problem calling it what it is. But when Israel kills tens of thousands, including over 13,000 children according to Gaza's health ministry, suddenly it's all complicated? Suddenly it's not genocide? Even though Israeli officials have literally used annihilationist language, saying things like Gaza should be flattened and wiped out. And the self-defense excuse? Mehdi nailed it. Bashar al-Assad used the same justification. They're hiding among civilians. We're just targeting terrorists. That's been the playbook of every regime committing atrocities in the 21st century. And Piers has called those genocide. So what makes Israel different? Mehdi isn't afraid to call out anyone, including Hamas and Israel. He's consistent.
I just don't get it.
I don't think it is genocide, no.
Even though the facts say otherwise. Holocaust historians like Omar Bartov and Amos Goldberg, Ariel Naya, some of the experts on Holocaust say it is a genocide.
Yeah, but a lot of experts say it's not a genocide.
That's not actually some of the leading Holocaust experts are lining up in one direction.
You've got your experts. I've seen many other experts who say it's not genocide. So you can, look.
I just find it fascinating that you'll call every other conflict which has fewer deaths than Gaza genocide. But for some reason,
you're very deaths in Syria.
There were in February 2012, I checked. You said it was a genocide in February 2012. See, I do my homework. I checked. 7,500 people in Syria being killed at that point. You said genocide. 45,000 people in Gaza. You say not genocide.
Well, it comes down to what you think the intent is of the people perpetrating.
You don't think they're trying to erase northern Gaza right now?
I think what they're doing.
Are you seeing what's happening in northern Gaza?
Here's what I think they're doing. I think Israel genuinely believe what they're trying to do is eliminate Hamas, who they perceive to be a terrorist
I think you're speaking on behalf of Israelis who aren't saying that. They're making it very clear it's not just about Hamas. They're seizing territory in Gaza. They're planning to, some of them are planning to resettle in Gaza, and right now, northern Gaza, according to the UN humanitarian chief, everyone is at risk of dying, Piers. Everyone. That's the words of the UN humanitarian chief.
Don't misunderstand me. I think what's happening in Gaza is horrific.
You just won't say genocide?
No. You asked me if it's genocide. I don't think it is. And you asked me if it's terrorism. I don't think it is. Do I think it's got unacceptable, the level of civilian death? Absolutely.
But you do think Netanyahu probably could end up at the ICC?
Do I think that they have no plan for the end of this? Absolutely. Do I think Netanyahu and the headbangers and his cabinet should go? Absolutely. Do I think Hamas should have any authority going forward? No. So there are lots of ways that we can try and
I know, but ultimately history will judge where you were on this, and they'll say you were right on Iraq and you didn't really come on board on Gaza.
And I don't think they'll find that you were right about calling it terrorism or genocide.
Okay.
We'll see.
I hope you're right. Obviously, I don't want it to be a genocide, but it looks like one, sounds like one, walks like one. Just on last, I do want to talk about Donald Trump with you, but just on this topic, October 7th was bad enough. I think we can both agree. The kidnapping and killing of civilians, war crimes, without anyone having to exaggerate how bad it was. And yet, given the way a genocidal Israeli government, in my view, not yours, has used atrocity propaganda to try and justify the mass killing of Palestinians, especially Palestinian children. And the October the 7th, some would argue, even got as a Palestinian-American child killed in Illinois. There's an argument that that guy was infuriated by talk of beheaded babies, etc. Do you regret, Piers, a year later, having used your very big platforms, YouTube, Twitter, to spread that atrocity propaganda, to repeat the Israeli line uncritically, saying, and I quote, 40 babies being killed, some of them being beheaded?
Well, I never said, as people have tried to claim, that 40 babies got beheaded, right? We do know that some babies were killed.
One.
We do know a baby was kidnapped. Well, I mean, what I find fascinating about this, when people start going on their Hamas defense
That's not a Hamas
journey.
defense. We're journalists. We believe in facts, right?
I know you did. But I also had Bassem Youssef on last week saying there was no sexual abuse of...
Bassem Youssef can speak for himself. I'm asking you about 40 babies being killed, some of them being beheaded. Do you regret saying that as a journalist? You correct things when you're wrong.
As you know, well, I've already said this on my show. So had you done your research in the capable way you say you do, you would know that I've already said, yeah, it turned out that 40 babies were not killed.
That's weird because I've just checked this morning and all your tweets are still up saying that 40 babies were killed. So if you've corrected it...
I've said it on my show.
But your tweet, you have how many million followers do you have? I know you love talking about your followers.
A lot more than you.
Yeah, how many?
I think it's 8.8 million.
So 8.8 million, we could still see multiple...
Now Mehdi calls this out. In 2012, with just 7,500 deaths in Syria, Piers called that genocide. He said it about Myanmar. He said it about Ukraine. But suddenly, when it comes to Israel, the only case where the death toll is higher and the bombings more relentless, he backs off. That's not consistency. That's selective morality. Mehdi even hits him with the point that some Israeli leaders are openly talking about resettling Gaza and leveling it completely. That's not about just targeting Hamas. That's ethnic cleansing rhetoric, plain and simple. And then there's the beheaded babies claim. Piers repeated that early in the war, helping spread unverified atrocity propaganda. Now even he admits it wasn't true, but his tweets are still up, reaching millions. Mehdi nails it. If you're gonna be a journalist, own your mistakes, delete it, correct it, don't bury it and quietly move on. Mehdi isn't playing team politics. He's sticking to facts and calling out double standards. And Piers, he's trying to sound balanced while holding on to a double standard that crumbles the second someone like Mehdi puts the receipts on the table.